This time? Okay. Good morning and welcome to our November work session that are here, people that are here and that's on Facebook. I might ask the clerk to call the roll.
Mr. Cole, Mrs. Amos,
Yes, here.
Mr. Parent, Mr. Vincent,
Yes.
Mr. Hunter,
Here.
Mr. Dwyer.
Here.
I'm sorry. We'll follow our agenda and our town manager will now present our first discussion on Confederate Monument relocation.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. I appreciate that. Just want to give you some update. I told you one of the most recent meeting that we had, two bids come in, but they did not. They gave hourly prices, and we were waiting for the total project cost estimate to come in, not to exceed price. And we had two companies that that bid on it, and the lowest bidder is a company out of Washington D.C. called Stratified, and their bid, their not to exceed price was $46,000. So at the regular meeting next week, I plan to bring a contract to you all to authorize for me to sign, and then we can, once that's executed, obviously by both parties, then we'll be ready to move forward for that process, and then we should be done, be closed out with that.
Can you tell us what, is there, are they bidding on moving all sections or?
Yeah, so you know, the area that we that I showed you that was best area to do it, that we wouldn't have to do much clearing as far as topography, and then we did the scan, the radar there, making sure that there wasn't anything that we needed to discover before digging. So a pad will be poured to meet the weight of the monument. And then they'll dismantle it and put it back together at the Confederate Cemetery, and then have the soldier put back on top.
So the, if I'm not mistaken, there's a concrete base on the existing monument.
We won't move that
Right.
base.
But all the other sections will be.
Correct.
Okay,
I mean, we'll pour a new. That's pretty much a pad.
right.
The base of it.
Makes sense.
There'll be a new one of those, but the everything else from that rounded base here up will be moved.
Any questions concerning it?
No, I'm just glad that we got the ball rolling and we can hopefully move past that issue.
Next on our agenda is solar project requests for proposals.
Yes, sir. I shared with you all about this before. We put out an RFP for solar at our landfill, and we had 6 or 7 companies actually respond to that RFP. The purchasing agent and I narrowed that down to interviewing 4 of them based on the parameters of what was written in an RFP and their responses. And from those interviews, we have decided to move forward with one of the companies. The company's name is AC Power LLC. Based on their knowledge and abilities and the scope of the project that they set out and the cumulative payout that would be available over 35 years, we felt was the best for the town. They actually, the other positive thing is it's a woman-owned business, and if you have ever done any purchasing and go through some of the procurement processes, those are one of the things that you look at, especially when you're a state agency as well. The other thing is they've had quite a bit of experience in the short time that there's been solar projects in the United States. They've done, and especially with landfills, closed landfills. They started in New Jersey and they've expanded to New York, Maryland, Pennsylvania, and now Virginia. One other positive part of this is that they have actively on other projects worked with Labella, who is also our engineering company that handles our post-closure reports and monitoring of our landfill. And so there was a lot of areas where they hit the mark in order for us to select them. So at next week's meeting, I'll be bringing to you all as well an item for you to allow me to enter into a letter of intent, and so that they have a certain period of time to do their due diligence on the property, and then offer us and look at permitting and those types of things. What that does is gives them time to then issue or we don't accept a contract that has a more definitive time frame and pricing. At the end of the day, it's a win-win for us because there's not a whole lot we can do with a landfill, and if this project will benefit us and potentially our customers that have Dominion as their power source.
Any questions? Mr. Perry was late getting here. We had a discussion about the Confederate Monument. Would you like to give him a little update on that before we go into further?
Sure. Who'd you say that was, Mr. Vice Mayor? No, I'm just kidding. No, we talked about the last meeting I had talked about that there were bids that did not have, they had hourly rates but not a not to exceed price, and so those have been resubmitted, and the not to exceed price is $46,000 for the company that we're choosing to go with, and that is stratified with they have an address out of Washington D.C. And so they will be, I'll be asking next week as well to allow me to sign a contract with them to move that project forward.
What was the next bid that was close to that?
The next bid that was close to that came in at $144,750.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, just wanted you to be updated, Mr. Perry. That was all.
So kind of you, Assistant Mayor.
Our next discussion will be on the American Rescue Plan. And that will be by our town manager.
Yes, sir. We had talked about coming up with some ideas. I took this to the Finance Committee last week for a discussion and let them know that I had planned to bring this to the work session as well. The discussion at the Finance Committee, I have two members here from that, and correct me if I have any of this wrong, was that it was always to bring to the whole council to have a discussion about the priorities and areas that we would use this money for projects that could be used. And it was also discussed in that meeting about allowing the public, obviously, we'll have a public hearing and let them voice their what they may think is important for use of this funding as well in the near future. I just provided to them. I asked this there's some gray areas of what you have to prove to use this money for, other than broadband, and pretty much broadband and water and wastewater are given pretty easy usage of these funds. Anything else, you have to show how it impacts or has something to do with COVID recovery. And so, which we think that obviously some recreational projects could be involved in that. But prior to that meeting, I did ask our wastewater treatment plant and our water treatment plant to provide some priorities that will be needed over the next several years that we would have to do anyway at some point in time. That would be, at that point, the basis of funding availability. And so you have that in front of you. Some of them are not large, but when you add it all together, you get into some pretty hefty amounts of money, even though each one is not as high as you may seem. Wastewater treatment plant, you can see those as well. So I got them to rank these in order of what is most needed, and also an estimated price of what these would be. Obviously, prices these days are changing as the day goes. So you got to think the water treatment plant was originally built, I think, in like 1975-ish area. Yeah, we've done some updates and things, but some of these, I mean, are in need of changing out and being redone. The wastewater treatment plant is younger. However, some of these have never been changed out and probably need to be at this point, obviously. And then also I included, we're due, it's in our capital improvement plan to do the section of West 3rd Street from Industrial Park Road to Oak Avenue. And I asked Robin to give me an estimate about if there are any lines underneath that road. Instead of just paving it, how could we look at doing that project and replacing those lines before putting new pavement on top of it? And you can see that's about $500,000 estimated. And we would not do that in-house because the amount of time it would take our crew to do that, if we had something else happen in town, we wouldn't have enough people to work on both at the same time. So that would be probably bid out for somebody to do a project of that size. Most of this would be, obviously, to do some of this. That comes up to, just the water and sewer alone comes up to of this list of needs at $3.6 million. So we'll have a total of a little over $8 million to spend, and obviously, it was talked about at that meeting that people aren't going to understand using all $8 million for something you can't ever see underneath the ground, and that's very true. In that we need to do something that benefits, others as well, that you can obviously be seen by individuals. At the end of the day, it's y'all's decision to say what we're going to spend it on, and think about how, what we don't do now, one day we're going to have to spend, and if we don't have cash to do it, then we're going to have to borrow to do it. But the positive thing is we are going to get feedback from the community by having this at a public hearing and getting insight from them and allowing them to come forward and discuss, if that's the pleasure of council, obviously.
So what is your time frame for a public hearing?
we can do it as early as December, or we can wait until after the new year and go from there. But that's totally up to you all when you feel that you would want to get this information and hear it from individuals.
I'd like to see us possibly, I'm not sure exactly how, maybe put it in the water and sewer bills, put out this list as far as to kind of let people see what we're talking about. I know they're not going to completely understand it, but at least give them some idea of what we're thinking about as far as on the side of not being seen but needed to be done. I think it would help to try to make them understand. In my personal humble opinion, I think water and sewer is huge as far as for the town, as far as for us to be able to survive and be able to provide quality services for drinking water and wastewater. I'd like to see us try to maybe explain it a little bit better to the general public as well. Just a comment.
I'll be happy to draft something up. I guess I would look for other council members if that's something you would like us to work on just from a majority standpoint, so that we're not staffing and spinning wheels if the majority is not interested in that. If no offense, Mr. Barrett.
I think the public hearing is vital. It's a lot of money, and we need to be open for maybe something we haven't thought of. No, I support it, whether it's December or January. I think it's just the logistics, but personally, I say sooner the better.
I'm in favor of public comment as well, while also in favor of stressing the fact that infrastructure is not always the pretty bauble, but it's also not pretty when it fails, and so it's kind of important to keep those projects in mind as we're faced with this money. As a town manager alluded to, at some point you got to do these projects, and do you want to borrow on those later, or do you want to try and pay down on some now? And so yeah, I'm in favor of information adequately distributed as well as public comment period.
Well, all of these on the list, are they top priorities that need to be done right away, or?
Yeah, I asked them of all the things that need to be done, give me the things that you feel over the next 5 years need to be done if we had the money to do them.
Did they by chance happen to put them in order of importance, or do you know?
I'll make sure that these are in order of importance. I can tell you the oxidation tank for water treatment, I know that one is the most important. If you go and look back at our CIP, it's actually in our 5th year of our 5-year CIP plan, because that's when we could afford it, back before we ever knew we were having any of this money. But it has the most impact of the plant. And it has the most impact because it will greatly reduce our issue with manganese and the issue that we're having with, if you remember, maybe a year and a half ago, we talked about the problem with the sand we had to remove because the chlorination of the plant was coming at the front of the plant instead of the back of the plant, like when it was originally built. And so this oxidation tank would help both of those issues. So it helps the alkalinity in our water. We'll have better quality water and those types of things. So I do know from Kathy that's why it's at the top of the list. But I just want to make sure that they are in order of most importance. Yes.
How many of these items are on our CRP list?
I have not looked at that to see which ones are already on there, except I do know the oxidation tank.
I remember the oxidation from the other day, but if you can check just next meeting or so, just to let me know how many are on our CRP list.
Mm-hmm.
I think the public, this is one of those situations where it's not really mandated or required of us to seek out that public comment, but we are, because we do care about what the public feels is a priority in this community. And there's probably is some low-hanging recreational fruit out there to pluck. So I would say please take this request to heart and do a little thought on what you'd like to see happen.
Any more questions, discussion? And next we'll have comments about the town manager and staff, but before we go to that, I want to town manager about the redistricting. Have you heard any more what we're gonna do, or statewide, county-wise? I noticed the county is having a hearing on the 9th. No, that's not on the redistricting, but are we doing anything committee-wise?
I have made contact with CRC, and they have not gotten, the last I had checked, which is probably a week and a half ago, they had not gotten all the information that they needed. And also I've been pulling records, well, I haven't, Jackie and Steven have been pulling records of 10 years ago of how we did a committee for the redistricting. And so I'm going through that right now to see how it was handled 10 years ago from a committee standpoint.
I think the county has already organized a committee for their redistricting already.
And theirs mirrors the one that they did, I believe, 10 years ago. Our documentation is a little different, so I need to go through that, but I'll be in touch with you all soon to let you know what that looked like back then.
Okay. Comments by the town manager?
The only thing that I have comment-wise is to just remind you that November, when we went to the state has several holidays. So you know that we were closed yesterday. We'll be closed next Thursday for Veterans Day. And then we're closed for Thanksgiving, a half a day that Wednesday, and that Thursday and Friday. So just to make you all aware and the public so that they have a little bit of notice ahead of time. I was in here working yesterday and the phone was still ringing because the state just made that change like last year that Election Day would be a holiday. They moved it from another day. They didn't, I don't think they created a new one. They just moved it from an existing. So, but wanting everybody to be on the same page. Other than that, I don't have anything else right now.
How are we coming with our vacancies, job-wise?
We are still, I have a conditional offer out, as you know, to a planning, to a community development director position. We've re-advertised for a finance director, and we're continuing, and they're continually interviewing people in public works. The police chief just offered 2 conditional offers to 2 last week or the week before. So that would leave us 1 officer short still until a retirement that's potential coming in the near future. So, but all of them will, all of the ones that we hired in the police department will have to go through the academy. So position-wise, we'll be not down, but they won't actually be out here on the street for almost a year and a half once they're hired. In Public Works, I don't know, did I mention that? That's just an ongoing effort of trying to get the right people to fill those positions, unfortunately for Robin and them.
Okay, do we have anything else to be discussed, staff-wise? Ms. Caroline? Need a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Oh. Go ahead.
The stop signs up on Fourth Avenue Extension have created some input and some phone calls and whatever. And I'm wondering, I think that some folks are not in favor of them, but for what I have done a little work, and I think the majority of people I've heard from are in favor, but the consensus of several people, and I would kind of agree, is we put those up without much information to the community in any way of why they were put up, or I think that it's safe to say that from what I'm hearing that, and I admittedly blew right through one of them myself because my muscle memory is telling me just to go down Fourth Avenue Extension, especially if you're going down the hill toward Hurd Street. But folks are asking me if it's possible to put up anything in a temporary way to, the equivalent of something that would catch their attention more than a stop sign, that people will help them in their transition getting used to it. I'm not sure in what form that would take, but just somebody even suggested, some type of, even if you put like a barrier, with stripes or something just to look at, because I think folks are just.
Is it possible to put our signage up there, letting them know that the stop sign is a new signal up there or something?
I'll work with the police department, and maybe we will use our signboards that we recently got not too long ago to put something at each end. The road aren't part of the reason for the stop sign is the amount of traffic and the width of the roads and things like that, but of people walking. So there is no shoulder, it goes straight into a ditch. So, but that's probably the best that we could do is put up some of those signs to say prepare to stop at Sanford and Hurd.
If we had money we had to burn, I would think it would be great. The stop sign down on South Virginia Street and Longwood Avenue that has the, I guess the solar powered blinking red lights. In theory, that would be something that people would, that would certainly catch your eye. But I'm sure that's, those are probably pricey. But anyway. It is two four-way stops have been added. And again, I think the majority of the people I've talked to feel that it's enhanced safety and it's going to slow people down, so they like what we've done. The majority, not everybody by any means, but it's just that they're not being adhered to. I don't think it's unintentional or intentional. I think it's just they're just not used to it. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else? Mr. Hanna? Mr. Bryan? Mr. Parrott?
So move.
Second.
Aye.
Have a good day.
Thank you for calling me out.
No, I didn't call you. I didn't want to leave you.
You asked.